schedule them.
Vas-y, c'est parti.
10, 9, ignition sequence start.
Hi, good morning. Happy Wednesday. Happy New Year's, everybody. I hope all the festivities have been great. Jeff, how were yours?
Very a lot of different things, but very relaxing, believe it or not, which is good for you once in a while, especially someone like me that's always moving and doing something. It's good to have that, to reset, recharge, recalibrate for the new year, but definitely glad to be in the new year and already feels different. Good energy already. So I'm good with it.
Yay. Yeah, me too.
Yeah.
Ready to start the year.
Yeah.
Welcome, Claudia.
Hi, thank you.
Hi, good morning.
Hi, Claudia.
Good to see you.
I'm Ophelia. I am the real estate agent in this show, and along in this show is Jeff Williamson. He is with Fairway. Jeff, would you like to tell us a little bit about you?
Sure. Been in with Fairway since 2018. Been in the lending arena for, I think, 25 years now. So quite a bit. And obviously, it's been quite interesting over the years, but definitely is good for you. Builds character. Definitely conditions you a different way. And, we all kind of need that. We all need to get out of our comfort zone or do things that make you feel a little, maybe it's uncomfortable or awkward even, but, it gets you to react and it gets you to do something different or think a different way. But like I said, been in the business a very long time. Most of our business is in the builder arena as preferred lenders with a lot of the builders in town and even other states. Fairway is a national company, licensed in all 50, and personally, I believe now I'm in 12 in our team. So that consists of a lot of builder relationships. Of course, we do the whole scope, whether it's refinances or resale. But the builder arena has been really good to me, but it's been good to us. And it's a lot to keep your arms around. It's a lot to ensure that, of course, number one, the client is always taken care of. It's all about the experience for the client. And, everything that we do from our team to our underwriting to all our support is the best that I've had in my career, for sure. And of course, that's going to give the client the best experience they're going to have. So a lot to say, but that's kind of the short of it, of how long I've been in the business and kind of what our focus is in the builder arena. And it is very nice to be able to travel to different states, meet different people, different surroundings. Again, it's definitely getting you out of your comfort zone. It's getting you out of your own state. So, it's very exciting, to say the least. So,
Claudia, Jeff, he is our preferred lender for, let me see if I can say it right because I usually get it wrong. Got spouse, need house. See?
Yep. Get it all.
Yes. So our intention with this team and this program is to help couples that are getting married, aiding them with, as Jeff, as a preferred lender, he's willing to do a cost-free appraisal. So the couples will not have to worry about that fee. And then we have a title company. Who's the title company, Jeff?
WFG.
Okay, and they do discounted fees toward title service like closing costs and stuff like that. They'll do a discount, and then the realtors in the team, including myself, we do up to 18% credit from our compensation towards. I think it's from the purchase price. of the home, and that's to help, couples with a little bit of, that cost that they're incurring already with the wedding and getting all that prepared. And more of that, because you see it.
Yeah, it's a lot. I
Yeah.
actually talking to a couple right now whose wedding I'm doing next month, and they're moving to a new house as they're planning their wedding. So I can totally understand what you guys offer. Sounds like a huge boost in the beginning of their life together.
Oh, that's amazing. Thank you. Claudia Andrea,
Yes.
you are a wedding officiant. Tell us a little bit about you. How did you get into this business?
It's actually a fun story because it's literally a dream come true. I had a dream while I was sleeping that my friend wanted me to officiate her wedding, and I woke up and I'm like, duh. And I say duh because my background is in wedding and event planning. So in 2012, I studied wedding and event planning. A lot of people don't know you can study it in a vocational school. And then I did that for a kind of word of mouth. I didn't really market myself as a wedding and event planner, but I had a lot of friends who were engaged in that moment, in that time, and was able to help them. Then I moved on to coordinating. The day of coordinator is kind of like for brides who want to plan their wedding themselves, but they want someone to be in charge just on that day so they can focus on looking pretty and the emotions and being in the moment. So that I really enjoyed as well. And then I went over to managing proms and almost any side of events I've been involved with. I've done photos. I haven't done a cake or flowers yet, but that's just about the part I haven't done in weddings. But needless to say, I love weddings and love and celebrations.
Oh, I'm kind of like a sucker for weddings too. I'm always asking my family, "Who's getting married? We need a wedding. We need a party."
Yes. I mean, and you used to dress up and be with family and friends and have fun, and you eat well. But most of all, what I enjoy is just, there's only moments like this in life for one person. They don't come around very often, right? Or even in a family, like you're saying. And so to get to be like a fly on the wall in those most precious and intimate moments, I just feel so honored and blessed to be able to do that.
That is so cool. Do you have to, now you mentioned you did have to go to school to do that. Do you get like a license to do it?
So for wedding and event planning, you don't even have to go to school for any of it that I'm aware of. I did go to get an understanding. But for officiating, no. You've probably heard of friends who ask another friend to officiate and they just go and get a certificate and they're able to do it. So no, for this particular thing, I didn't have to do schooling, but I do see how that background helps me a lot in being able to like empathize with my couples and kind of give them advice as well in the planning of the wedding. I kind of throw that in there and I say, if you need any recommendations, I know the vendors locally and I know it can be a lot. And it's nice to have somebody who knows what they're doing to give you a recommendation instead of it can be, I'm assuming just like buying a house, you can Google a realtor and hope that you find the one that like fits your needs and understands what you're going through and will be there. It's an emotional part of their lives as well. And so if you can have those recommendations, I know all realtors say they love referrals, right? And
We
so
all
you can have, yeah, but that warm like handoff is a huge deal, and it can make the realtor or the officiant and the client feel so much better to know that they're in good hands,
Yes, definitely. And you want to earn, sorry, Jeff, you were saying?
No, I was just agreeing. Or yeah.
Yeah. Yeah, I mean, I think it's just, trying to, obviously as a professional, you want to get business, but you also want to make sure that the person that is hiring you is comfortable with you,
Right.
that they trust you and that they know that they're in good hands.
Yeah.
I think, yeah, we have a lot in common. That's
Yeah, and tell me if it's a girl thing, Jeff, Ophelia. But I feel like when I go make a purchase, especially something that means something to me, a car, a house, a wedding, a couch, I like to be with somebody who I get along with and vibe with. And you don't want to do a transaction, especially a big transaction, with somebody who you feel like is blowing you off, or they make you feel like you're a burden to them. And so I say I think it's a girl thing because we're more like feeling driven, but I do think it matters to men as well to know that they can not only trust but get along with that person,
Yeah, that's a good question,
Absolutely.
Jeff. What's
Yeah,
your
it
take
is.
on that?
I agree with you. I mean, it to be able to be in that moment with someone and knowing that you're both in that moment together, that you're both sharing that excitement, that you're both, celebrating everything, whether it could be going out to dinner together and really enjoying food and really enjoying whatever it is you're into, and really kind of picking everything apart. And, it's one thing to just, be there, but then there's the other thing to be there. You're actually in the moment and you're both just as exciting. You both want to be there. And like you said, you're vibing, and it's something that, it's unique to both of you, and you're truly, wherever it is, whatever it is you're doing, like you said, it could be purchasing furniture, it could be a restaurant, it could be an event, it could be a concert, whatever it is. It's important to really absorb your surroundings, and to be able to do that with another person or several other people is great. And I've always said that it's good to don't be a product of your environment. Let your environment be a product of you, meaning lead and make those around you stronger. Get them to be excited, get them to have that vision, because a lot of people aren't good at doing that themselves. A lot of people aren't good at having fun by themselves. You kind of have to encourage them and kind of test them, and just kind of bring them into your web, and just see how that works, because we're not all the same. And it's like walking into a home. Someone can walk in and have a vision of, I'm going to move this wall, and I'm going to put this over here, and I'm going to put a fireplace there, and then somebody come in and they're like, this isn't working for me. I'm like, well, you're not thinking, you're not imagining that. So it's just the same thing. So someone can walk in and have a vision, and someone needs that, that advice or that guidance or that picture, to do that. So absolutely. I think it's both male, female. And again, just really being captured by that moment together, whoever you're with.
Yeah.
Beautiful. Look at that.
Yeah, it's true. I mean, when we meet somebody, or especially when I meet somebody, I get the first impression from them, and especially if I'm meeting them for the first time at a house, and they walk into the house, and sometimes the house is not what they want, and I can even see them, like I can see their body expression is like, oh, you didn't like it, and they're like, no, we don't feel comfortable, and you start just building this relationship, and you kind of like share the same ideas, like, yeah, there was something, there was just something about the house that really didn't feel right. But when, like, Claudia, when you meet somebody for the first time, and it's not your friend, because I know that you like to do it for your friends too, when it's somebody completely new to you, what's yours? Do you have a strategy to get them to know you? Let them know what you're about. How do you make their moment a special moment?
I love that question. Well, and I'll go off of two things that you said. So one, they are not my friend yet, but that is part of the approach, is I like to treat them as if they are, like if they were my friend. I want somebody to take care of my friends when they're doing things, and whether it's a wedding or a house. And so I kind of approach him as that. And then also off of what Jeff said, I love when he said, you go into a space and you create your own experience and you lead. And so those two things are key ingredients for me. Is it's funny because it's something I struggle with sometimes with my personality, because I'm very polite. I'm very thoughtful and like aware of everybody. So I try not to step on anybody's toes while also leading an experience. Right. And so but I've kind of come to a place where I'm comfortable, where I just say, you know what, like read the person, read what they want. And so a lot of times for officiating, I don't meet them in person until the rehearsal, which is usually a day before the wedding. They're usually referred to me by a venue or a friend or on social media. And so the initial contact is an email inquiry to me. And so I have some questions that I send them to get to know them better. So basic, like, names and date of the ceremony and place, but also when you picture your ideal ceremony, what words come to mind, and what kind of, environment or feel are you trying to create? And so I feel like from being a wedding planner, that has helped me, because you can go to someone and say, I'm going to create your dream wedding, and you're thinking like elegant and white and sparkle, and they're thinking like country and barn. And so there's so many different ways to do that. And I think the same with a ceremony. Some people might want to laugh during a ceremony, and some people might want it to be very religious and very reverent and very serious and very long and very short. And so those are the kind of questions that I ask. And when they're struggling with, well, what do you mean? What kind of ceremony? I'm like, well, romantic, intimate, fun, short and sweet. And that's when you can kind of see the wheels turning it. And whether they have the words for it or not, everybody has a picture of how they envision the moment, and so I try to kind of get them to paint that picture for me.
Okay. That's a good information for our listeners and viewers. Yeah.
Well, everybody wants to feel.
Go ahead.
What's that?
Well,
I was just saying everybody wants to feel. Yeah, everybody wants to feel important, and there's obviously a certain way and a balance to, if someone doesn't have a vision, or if someone can't really themselves get into that moment, you really have to listen to them. You really have to kind of feel it out. You don't want to offend anybody or make someone feel that there's something wrong. So I think there's kind of a charm or something to that can't really be taught, that you're kind of either have or you don't. Obviously, especially meeting someone for the first time, let them talk, because obviously, especially with a wedding, they want to talk about it. They have excitement, they have concerns, let them have the floor. Yes. And speak, and try to, even if you're someone like myself, they'll come right at you and say a lot. You kind of have to really dial that back and understand that, like, this is whatever it is. It could be wedding, it could be anything. Let them speak, and obviously don't go in and just start talking about yourself, like hit them like a truck, because not everybody's good with that. Some people are. Some people they turn right off, and then they're not even listening to you.
Yeah.
Kind of like if you go on a first date and someone just talks about themselves the whole time. Terrible. Chances are it might not work out that well, but you never know.
And you're right. Like, reading the room is such an important aspect, I think, in anything in life. Yeah. But I will say, as much as people, and I do, like, especially with the wedding or with a home purchase, like, they're the star, like, it's their needs, it's their wants that we're listening to. But there are some people who just come in and say, you're the expert, I don't know, like, I trust you. And you do kind of need to step in and lead. So that reading the room part is hugely important.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Well, and again, you're going to be remembered too. You are specifically on that day because of what you're doing and who you are and what role you're playing there. So that's something that they're going to remember, like, you for the rest of their lives. So I'm sure there's a lot of, I don't know if it's pressure, because if you're confident, you shouldn't feel pressure, but there should be something that motivates you at the same time. So it's just, that I'm sure you're very mindful of that as well, that you're going to be remembered that way.
Right.
Hopefully forever.
Yeah, I like that point. And I'll say, so I have a background in performing arts, singing, dancing, acting, have kind of done it my whole life. And I feel like that's helped me a lot, because, and maybe not in the way you think, like, yes, it makes me more comfortable in front of people. And you could, to some degree, call it a performance if you wanted to. Although that word sounds not very genuine, and mine is very genuine in my experience. But I feel like in performing, I've learned that it's so easy to get in your head, and you want it to be perfect, and you want to look good, and you want people to give you a standing ovation. But when I learned to take my ego out of it and to focus on the service part of it and make sure that the audience has a good experience, and how are they going to experience it? And even if I mess up, they're going to see humanity in me. They're not going to think I'm horrible or write me off. And so when I think of it that way, that is a huge mindset shift and game changer for me. And so that's how I try to approach it is, yes, you're right. I am going to be in the forefront. They are going to see me and they might remember me for a long time. But more importantly is they're going to remember how I made them feel through the experience. And that's the goal for me. And so I do think there is a part of me that could get nervous, or how do I look? And am I going to turn okay? Like, are the pictures going to be good or whatever? And I let go of that. And I think, as long as the bride and groom are having a good experience and their family and friends, but I do try to stand up for the bride and groom and what they want, because a lot of people have opinions as well. So I try to live in that moment with them and kind of take myself out of it to some degree, and think about, and I pray beforehand too. I pray that we feel God's spirit with us and that each of them feels, his love, and the whole room or the whole experience is of peace and love and joy and support. So that's been a huge component of it for me that I think makes me successful in the way of like giving my clients what they are hoping for, is focusing on them, focusing on the people there. And I'm kind of the last part of it in my head anyway.
Well, it could be the first and the last, and what you said before. There's something very attractive about the blend of, or having a balance of, vulnerability and confidence, because you have to be able to be approachable and relatable. If you come in there with your chest out and your head up and this whole power thing, that doesn't work as well as just being confident, but then also letting people know you're human, like you said, and that, we're all nervous today. We're all kind of going through this. Everyone wants everything to be perfect. Like,
right.
And I think you can make things close to perfect if everybody is kind of on the same page, or if everyone is, but again, as I'm sure you can tell me, it probably doesn't work as easy as I'm saying I'd like it. I would think it does. There's a lot of emotions flying around, with weddings.
Right.
It's something different,
Yeah, I do like that formula you created of vulnerability and confidence. And I think in what you two do as well, or anybody does, and how they show up in life, or like you're saying on a date or a job interview or whatever, I think that is an attractive combo that I think anybody can relate to.
Well, and it's, for example, someone may have some issues with credit. The credit report is like the blood work. If you don't feel well, they're like, hey, we need to see your blood. You're like, well, I don't want to do that. You're like, well, sorry, I don't know how we're supposed to figure this out. So like, well, I don't really want to pull the credit. I know there's some issues. It's like, it's fine. Listen, we've all had something that's happened with credit. It may be your fault, maybe not my fault. Maybe people point the finger at somebody else's fault. Who knows? But you don't want to just say, oh, and make them feel like it's a bad thing, or be embarrassed because something happened, because people go through a lot of things, and there's things that end up on credit that no one knows. It could be a copay from a medical, appointment that somehow got missed, and it's, $30, $50 could take a lot of points away from credit, and that person didn't do it on purpose. So just one example of kind of identifying something that might be unpleasant, but like, hey, but listen, everyone goes through it. We see this a lot, and here's how we fix it. You go right into the solution. You don't dwell on, oh yeah, the scores are, painful, or it's riddled with whatever it is. It's like, all right, listen, however much time it's going to take, that's how much time it's going to take. But you reassure them that they're in good hands. This is what you do. This is something you have a lot of experience with, and just don't even discuss the issue. Just discuss, the outcome and what that solution is going to be. That's really what it is. But yeah, it's that balance with vulnerability and confidence. Just like I always say in life, there's two words that can really help you out. It's really difficult, but in life, it's balance, of course. If you can just focus on that, that's a tough thing to do, especially if you've got whatever family and your work, and if you travel, whatever it is, you have to maintain a balance, or what happens? You burn out, or it doesn't work as well as it should. And the other, in a relationship or friendships, even business, is compromise. That's a really tough word for people, because people can be stubborn. People want it their way. People want it to go their way all the time. And that could work in some instances, in some relationships, but when you can really commit to having that compromise, things usually can work out a lot better. So it's kind of those simple words, but they hold a lot of weight,
Yeah.
So
Yeah. True. Do you think that, so based on my experience with like my family's weddings and everything, I see a trend of, and this is like everywhere, whoever we have interviewed in the past, I feel like everybody is more being more humanitarian, being more about everybody's feelings. I think that's a trend that I'm seeing in everything right now. Do you see it as well? Do you I know that you care. I can't, obviously I cannot say, oh, everybody's gonna be like this, but particularly you, Claudia, you do account for, you do care for who you're getting, who's getting married, and you're trying to make that connection. Whereas I've seen, wedding officiant just get into the house, saying the phrase and
Right.
sign here and goodbye.
Yeah.
Like there's no, it just feels like that moment just felt very superficial. It really did.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Yeah. Yeah. I appreciate that question. I do think that that's one of the reasons I got into being an officiant. So I studied wedding event planning, did events and weddings. Then I worked at a wedding venue and I got to see a lot of ceremonies, and they had like their go-to officiants, and the like one that I saw in particular, and no shade to him, like people have their own styles, and that's why you choose the people to work with. And maybe somebody doesn't want somebody who's so sentimental, maybe somebody just wants somebody direct to the point. And so I saw some of that, and I felt like it was very like cookie cutter, and some of them have, and again, no judgment on how people do their own service, but where they have like a script and they just trade out the names, same ceremony for each person. So when I saw that, I thought, I feel like I would care more, and I feel like that would be appreciated at the very least by the bride. Maybe the groom doesn't even care or is indifferent. But I know a wedding is all about the sentiment, and so that's kind of what got me to do it, is I know that I care a lot about people in general. And so, and I love to make people feel special, and like bring up things that they mentioned, and look, here it is, and wow, you were paying attention, or you knew that I like that. And so I am a sucker for that, for like birthdays and Christmas and everything. And so I do feel like that was a driving component or driving force for me to get into this in the beginning. And I do kind of advertise my services as personalized. And so I do see, I don't know if I would call it, I guess it would be a trend. I do feel grateful that in the industry that I work in, the other vendors I meet, photographers, caterers, planners, are in the same, have the same mission or the same objective, is to be mindful of that this is a big moment for them, and to make it as special as they can. And so I don't come across any vendors who are like, oh, I can't wait to get out of here, or they're like turning their nose up to it. Everybody's like, oh, and enjoying the moment, and really grateful to be there. And so that's another thing that I pride myself in when I talk to my clients is, if you're trying to decide between vendors, I know some that really care and will show up for you and would treat it as their own event. So yeah, I guess I would say, I guess you could call it a trend. Maybe if I think back to like the 90s or times where it does feel like some things are more kind of like cookie cutter and monotone, and let's just get this done. And I do think that even with the officiant part, some people don't even realize that they can have a say in how their ceremony goes, because it is such a foreign concept. And especially if they look at it from like a religious perspective, maybe just picture somebody who's been doing it forever and says the same thing for every wedding, and we should be okay with that. And you can be okay with that. But I do like that in what I get to do, if they want it to be religious, we can make it religious, but we can also laugh a little bit about their love story or mention fun things about them, that everybody, all the friends and family would recognize about how they got to that point. So for me, it is, I do love God, and this is, you know, people, when they want to get married, they want to do in front of family and friends and in front of God. So that is a huge component of it, but we can also have fun during the process and celebrate like what it took to get to that moment, you know?
Yep.
Yeah. Okay, that's so nice. I want to get married now. I want you to get married, to marry me.
Oh my gosh, I want to, I do.
Have you had any special requests or anything that, you know, has thrown you off, like, oh, okay, this is a first, or anything like a fun experience or an awkward experience that you want to share with us?
Yeah, nothing strange, but I'm like totally down. Like, yeah, if somebody asked me to dress up in a costume, that would be awesome. Like, I'm down to do that. But so nothing strange like that. But there are some special things that stick out that I think by me being open to the moment and not being so rigid has created some special moments. Like one I can think of is I had a bride who's American and doesn't speak Spanish, is learning Spanish, and her groom is from El Salvador, and so he spoke English and Spanish. But so they asked, a lot of people come to me for a bilingual ceremony, and so there's a part during the ring exchange where I have them repeat something to each other about what the ring symbolizes, and so they wanted certain parts in English and Spanish. So this was fun because the bride and I didn't plan this, but I kind of put her on the spot and had her repeat a phrase in Spanish. But I'm confident because I say it word for word. They can repeat it after me. I know she's learning Spanish, but it was just kind of beautiful how it came together without planning it. And she still talks about that, like that was the highlight of the ceremony. And she's like, that was so special. And as you can consider that, you know, for somebody like, my native language is Spanish. I'm originally from Chile in South America. And so if I'm marrying somebody who didn't grow up that way and they like make it a point to express their love to me in my native language, it like hits a different part of the heart, you know, and it touches the friends and family as well. So that's something that sticks out as something that a lot of people talked about and found really special. And I kind of like, I'd like to credit that I had planned it, but it was kind of like in the moment. And there are a lot of things that happen in the moment. I just want to share a couple more funny ones for fun. So there was one recently where the bride and groom were saying their vows to each other. And he was saying like, I'll kill all the bugs for you. And everybody was laughing. And then when she was reading her vows, there was a fly on her hand. And she's like, bug. And he's like, on it. So it was just so cute, like staying open to the moment and not being so rigid. And there's another one where a couple met at a restaurant. She said he was at the grill and he was really good at that, and she was a server. And so I said something in the ceremony about like, and I can't remember exactly, but I promise it wasn't cringy and it wasn't cheesy and it was appropriate. But I said something like, oh, you know, she loves the way he cooks a steak and she wants that forever. I said it in a cooler way. I don't remember how, but I swear to you, right when that happened, we could smell the dinner being prepared for their wedding. And so I pointed that out in the ceremony. I'm like, and cue the smell of the steak or whatever. And so it's just fun to kind of stay open. Like I try to incorporate whatever is important to them in their ceremony, as long as it's like, you know, it goes with the moment. And everybody loves a little chuckle. And but that was cool to like, I feel like back in the day when I was more nervous in front of people, maybe I would have hesitated to say something about what was happening in the moment. And so now, like, everybody is experiencing this together and they know I'm human too. So pointing out things like that has made them memorable for me, and I think for them as well.
It sounds like it. Sounds fun too.
Yeah.
Do you do more ceremonies like at venues or private backyards?
More venues, but I did a vow renewal. So I'm from San Diego. I moved to Arizona about 4 years ago. I did a vow renewal in San Diego, like on the cliffs overlooking the ocean recently. So those are like my favorite kind of spaces to do them in. But I work with a lot of venues who fortunately recommend me, and I'm comfortable with their process, and I recommend them. And so that's usually how it goes, is with venues. But I definitely have done some backyard private residence weddings as well. And I don't know if you know, but I DJ as well and MC. And so that's been fun too, is I did a vow renewal at somebody's home, and they had me DJ as well and take photos for them. So the more, to me, it's like the longer I can stay and be part of their night or their memories, the better. I just like live for those moments. And to me, there's nothing better in life than like celebrating love and family and doing that with people you love.
Yeah, I noticed a venue on your Facebook page. I think is that one of the venues that have you as a preferred officiant, or?
Most likely. I don't know, excuse me, which one you're referring to. So if I can shout out the Cottage in Gilbert, they have me as one of their preferred vendors and officiants, and I've done some at Modern Moments as well.
Moments, yeah.
Yeah, in Gilbert. So yeah, fortunately I get to do some repeat places, and it's nice to kind of feel the extended family with the people you work with too, as I'm sure you come across lenders and other inspectors and other people that you kind of see in and out, and people, especially people who are passionate about what they do, and then they make you and your work look good too.
Yeah, for sure. You know, there's lenders out there. There's our preferred lenders, and there's the lenders that our clients prefer, usually because they're related, or it just works for them. But yeah, what was my next question? I completely blacked out.
You're talking venues?
The venues, and then I wanted to ask you, like, have you, when all this, have you done weddings like at a home that has been like just purchased, and they like, you know what, I know it happened to us with my daughter's baptism. We were not sure if we were going to close on the date that we were told, because it was such a roller coaster with our purchase. And this is way before I became a real estate agent. And it is one of the reasons why I wanted to become one, because I wanted to take care of a family or a buyer, you know, and make sure that they're getting what they're looking for. My purchase was a nightmare. I had no knowledge with real estate whatsoever. So we purchased a house, and we had a fall through, unfortunately, and then our file went to another lender who was able to work it out, and we ended up closing on the house without knowing that it was going to happen. For sure, we were like, we're not going to close. It's going to fall through again.
Oh my goodness.
It was so hectic, and it was my daughter's baptism that weekend, and we closed on Friday. Yeah, so we closed on Friday.
Wow.
House.
Oh my
and
goodness.
Then the baptism was the next day. So we just moved everything, and we're like, you know what? Let's just do it at the house. No, we don't have furniture. We didn't have anything in this house. Anything.
It's like a venue.
Yeah.
A blank canvas.
This is the backyard. And that's how it worked. Have you had something like that? Have you seen something like that happen? You know, somebody getting married and doing it at their brand new home?
No, but in March, I have, like I mentioned earlier, this couple who's just moving into their new home. And so they were talking to me, and I'm DJing for them as well. So they were talking to me like about asking if I knew about dance floor companies, because they're not sure if like the tile or granite or whatever it is they're getting for their backyard will be done in time. So that's the closest I've come to that situation. But most of the people that I've done backyard stuff for have been there for a while. So I salute you for having the energy and the mindset to be able to pull something like that off. That's amazing.
It was an experience for sure. And one of the reasons why I wanted to go to real estate and do a good job. You know,
Yeah.
there's a lot of people like me that had no idea what was going on, that we were just given documents to sign and we were just rushing, you know. Oh, let's just sign this. Initial here, initial there, you know, and what is it? We don't even know, but let's get it. It's gonna be for the house, you know. And then for something to tell us, oh, you're not gonna get it. We're like, oh, you know. And then let's try it again. You know, a lot of people don't do that the second opinion search. Like, oh, let's see if we can get it with someone else.
That's a big thing, and I know that well because I've been a turn down lender, if you will, for builders, where their lender either something happens, they have different. It could be major issues that they don't even know how to tackle. They don't know how to fix it. They may know how to fix it, but aren't allowed to. I don't want to start throwing banks and names around of what they can and can't do, because it's not polite.
Right.
But there are, like you were saying about the credit earlier. Credit is a really crazy, odd world. Things do not make sense. The ways you fix it do not make sense. Sometimes it's very odd how it works. But I love talking about it because I've learned it so well from credit reporting agencies, credit repair people, attorneys, probably more than 20 years of my 25 in that arena. And I know exactly what to do with so many things to get the credit to where we need to go, either to qualify or even to get a better interest rate. We'll look at a report and say, oh, you have a 700 score, but if you have a 740, we can get you a better rate. We don't have to do that. But if you know that you can help somebody and you don't, that's like the worst thing you can do. So we always, whether it's to get something better or to get to qualify, but we're used to seeing a lot of damage because someone turned it down. There's usually a reason why. It's credit. Maybe they couldn't figure out the income. It's very complicated. The list goes on of issues, but I've had people that have been turned down once, twice, 3 times, and we've been able to get them done. And that has to be really tough, especially with children or your dogs, or just maybe it's just you're by yourself, but you want to live in a certain area. Whatever it is, it's very emotional, and to be told you can't, especially after going through the process for so long and having that hope that it's going to happen, knowing that there are issues, it's a tough thing. So I know that we've really been element in getting things done that most or not, other people can't do. So we're always happy when that can happen, but it is important. And you think, so we're only one team, we're only one lender in the whole country. How many times does this happen where someone's been turned down for a loan and they're discouraged and they go rent? Not that rent's a bad thing. Not saying either, both great, whatever works for you. But if you want to buy,
it's better to put that money towards your own investment.
That's fine. But I don't want to, again, in someone to say like that may not be their thing or whatever the reason is. I don't want to, but if your intention is in love or passion is you want to own a home, then that, if you wonder how many times that happens every day, it's kind of a scary thought.
Absolutely.
If you're not going to look at that second option, right?
Yeah. My marketing brain is saying to take that clip and make it a reel and make it go viral, because a lot of people need to hear that message. I think all of us have been through something where we get our hopes up and we're so excited. And to buy a home, it can feel very intrusive or very personal. Here's my bank statements. Here's my history with this and this and that. And you're having to dig up and it's stressful, maybe even just to find that information, and you get your hopes up and anyway, to be let down in that process is a huge loss in a lot of ways. And to think that there's hope after 3 or 4 times, like you mentioned, I think a lot of people need to hear that message.
Yeah. And you're planning a lot too. I mean, there's certain things that, maybe you shouldn't say or do until it's actually done, but everybody does anyway. Right. And you're excited about it. You tell your friends, you start planning. And then once you hit that wall, can't be a good feeling, and there's multiple things that can happen. It could be the client itself. It could be a condo project, that's a whole other conversation. We do a lot in the condo arena. Condos are a real, they're they're challenging. They're interesting. I've been in so many different communities. They all have their own personality, but that needs approval as well. And some people don't get approved because of the condo, which is crazy because they're not working with the right person. So you could be declined as a buyer or borrower. You could be declined because someone didn't know how to approve a project. Again, there's so many different avenues I can go down, credit, this and that, but it's like anything else. It could be it's like a health thing. Someone says that this is going on and you're like, I don't know, something doesn't seem right. What do you do? Especially if it's serious, you get a second opinion.
Yeah.
Like I was saying, the blood work is your health. The credit report that's the blood work of your loan or what we're trying to do, and it tells the story. But the good thing is, it can be corrected. It can be improved, and that's what a lot of the time can get you over the line for sure.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah, and that's why you want to be comfortable with the agent that you're working with, because then you know that it's going to be fine. And if there's something wrong, we're going to tackle it. There's every transaction is different, as every wedding. Every wedding is different. Everybody wants the things done differently. Like you said, different venues, maybe a backyard, big wedding, small wedding, private.
Well, you have to choose your partner as well too,
Yeah.
because if one of them goes a different direction, everything else falls down.
Yeah.
So it's where everyone that's involved, whether it's your business, mine, your business, everyone's a team. Even your client, like your part. We're a team right now. Right now, we're a team, and everyone needs to understand that everyone in this team is important, is equally as important, and that's a big thing, and that's what really gets it. But if one person or one entity in that chain isn't, that's where things can go wrong. That's why if you have the ability to choose your partners, you've probably chosen them well, but sometimes you don't. Sometimes you don't get to choose the title company. Sometimes you don't get to choose, lender. I mean, you can, but you know what I mean? It can get a little off center sometimes. So
Yeah.
It's like, the commitment that you make when you get married. You're being faithful, and you're saying all these awesome things, and you love each other, and I think that's the same way that when you find your home, you're like, I want to marry my home. This is where I want, my family to grow. This is where I want my kids. I can see my kids, my future kids with their dog or not, or no kids, but this is where I want to grow old. Or this is our first home. From this one, we're probably going to get another one, and so on. So, I think that's the nice things about when somebody's getting married, they also have that that wish. We're going to get married and then we're going to get a home. I'm Hispanic too, and I know that in our culture, it's like that, like, oh, we're going to get married and we're going to get a little house. A casita. That's always how it was brought to me.
Yeah.
Growing up, and I think, just purchasing a home, it's so good. And again, when I got, if I had known that if I could have purchased even a condo, and it shouldn't have even been like an expensive condo, something that we could afford. We could have sold that condo whenever we started being more stable in our marriage with our child, and then that condo could have worked into a bigger home, and just use that investment. But I didn't know. A lot of couples don't know that. You want, Want to get married, you don't have to buy a huge home. You don't have to buy this luxury, dream home yet. But you
Mhm.
can start small, and from there you can, continue going big.
Yeah, and it's funny. I'm equating everything to like dating and choosing a spouse. You talked a little bit about that parallel, and I'm thinking, yeah, everything looks amazing at first, and then you move in and you start seeing little things you didn't notice before. You're like, I'm still committed. We can fix this. And I think when you're talking about like making that commitment or picturing that initial life together. When I found out about your podcast, I thought that's so cool that they're dedicating themselves to helping those people who are starting out their life together. And one thing that came to mind is my mom's an interior designer, and one point she said when I bought my first house was, you see a house, and you're like, okay, but I need to move, like you were saying earlier, move this wall or change that sink or change the countertops or whatever. And so my mom said, go live in it first and have that experience and then see what you want to, because your perspective changes when you move in and you realize, oh, but then the door won't open if I put this over here, or this drawer doesn't reach this area, or when I bought my first home, I think we were in it for 2 months, and on Christmas morning, there was no water. Like something went wrong with the plumbing or whatever, and we had to call a plumber on Christmas Day and had to hold everything off. And I had a new baby who needed a bath and all these things. And I thought, how many stories has anybody heard? Right? They buy a house and then something unexpected happens. But you made this commitment or investment, and you're gonna see yourself through it. But anyway, all that to say that there's a lot of things that we think, looking at it before experiencing, that we want to change up, and it's not until we start that experience that our mindset changes and we see it a little differently. And even with wedding planning, I think a young girl could look at a magazine and say, this is how I want my wedding, and this venue won't do this, and I can't work with that venue because this is how I want it. Where you start thinking more logistically and realistically, and not to say that throw your dream away, not at all. But there's certain things that come up. And for instance, I coordinated my friend's wedding, and she wanted her cake table. It was outdoor. She wanted it under a tree. The cake person got so upset because, and it took a while to get this out of him, but he's like, no, if that's how he wants it, she wants it, I'm leaving or whatever. And then I finally got to talk to him, and he's like, well, the birds will go on the tree and they could poop on the cake. That's something that none of us have thought of, right?
Yeah, we never thought about that.
Right. We saw a picture with a cake under a tree and it looked pretty, so that's how we wanted it. So there's certain things where you have to get in there and experience it and learn and know that just might not work, and it takes a while to get there. So with a home, with a wedding, with a relationship, with anything in life, a lot of times you kind of, I wouldn't ever say to put your dreams aside, but also to open your mind to seeing things differently and maybe considering things that you didn't think of before. And it's usually when you talk to an expert that they can and find that, like, have that finesse of telling you what you don't want to hear, but coming up with a solution, like Jeff was saying. How sad and how scary it is to get to that point where you think you're buying a house and then something in your credit that could be fixed, but nobody took the time to explain that to you, and then you just feel defeated. So all that to say, it takes it's really important to think about who you choose to have these big experiences with, and then you have to be able to trust that they're going to go to bat for you. And not just, I hate customer service experiences where they're like, well, it says here, so that's that. And I'm like, well, you're human, and can you put yourself in my shoes and see, if you were in the situation, what would you do? Oh, maybe I can ask my manager. Maybe I can look in the back. Maybe. And so that's my personal pet peeve, is I don't like working with people who are so limited and don't try to find solutions, elsewhere.
Yeah, and I think it relates everything to a relationship, to a marriage. It's about finding solutions. Everything can be pink and it can be nice, and there will be hard times, but finding solutions and staying to that commitment, things will be better.
Right.
Yeah.
Well said.
Thank you. I think we're about to end our time. It's almost noon. We can continue talking if you guys like, but you're probably gonna have to leave too. But I don't know, Jeff. Do you have any questions for Claudia?
No, I don't have any questions, but definitely, good to hear your perspective and what moves you and how you see things and your vision and how you treat your clients and everyone that you have in your web in your life, which is good. Sounds very positive. We all have to stay positive. So, but that's great, and certainly a pleasure meeting you for sure.
Thank you. It's been a pleasure speaking with you both. And like I said earlier, I'm excited to get to know, my mind doesn't think about real estate all the time, but I actually I worked on a TV show that was about real estate in San Diego. So I am a little intrigued.
Where in San Diego are you from?
From North County, Carlsbad, Oceanside area.
Great. I was just out there twice last month.
Nice.
And not in Carlsbad, but San Diego. So
yeah. Beautiful.
Yes.
Phoenix is awesome as well. I didn't realize I would like it as much as I do. But anyway, to think about real estate, anybody in the real estate world, accommodating, newly engaged couples and newlyweds, I think is super cool, because that's a niche that needs a different kind of set of eyes and empathy to the situation that they're going through. So I'm excited to follow what you two and your team are doing and link up locally as well, and see where we can recommend each other to help more couples.
Definitely. Is there any other, I know that you're big in social media.
Mm-hmm.
How can our viewers or listeners find you? And
So everything I do for DJing music related is Claudia Andrea TV on Instagram, TikTok, YouTube, Facebook. And then for weddings, it's Wedding Officiant Claudia Andrea, and that's Instagram, Facebook, TikTok, and YouTube as well.
And we'll make sure that we put that out in the world too.
Thank you. And we'll make sure you and I stay in contact, if you want to have a vow renewal or whatever you said.
I've been thinking about it. Next year should be my 15.
Oh my goodness.
What about you, Jeff?
As far as
getting married again?
I am married. I'm good there. So, yeah, I'll just watch all of you do your thing.
All right. Well, thank you so much, Claudia, Jeff. Thank you so much again. Like everyone say, Happy New Year and all the best. All the best.
Yes. Yes. Thank you so much. Lovely meet up with you too.
All right.
Absolutely. We'll definitely stay connected. Have a great rest of the week.
Thank you. You too.
Bye.
Bye-bye.